0. So that's what we're going to write for the definition line right there. If I can pull up my pen, there you go. Okay. So the absolute value of a number is the distance from 0. Is the, oh, let me move this table down. Okay, distance is the distance from 0. Now, obviously, we are going to use algebra to move it around. That's not 0. So, simple absolute value equations. Example 1 says, absolute value of x, okay, equals 10. That means I want the distance to be 10. So, what could x be? 10 or negative 10? Yep. So, we can write plus or minus 10. Box that up. This one's a little bit more challenging. 2 of what has a distance of 10? 5 or negative 5, right? So you guys can all tell. Now, if we wanted to, could we divide both sides by 2? And then we get an absolute value of x equals 5. And then, now we know it could be what? 5 or negative 5. Could I write it this way if I want to? Ooh, this one's even more challenging. What minus 1 gives us a distance of 10? 11 is one of them. Is that it? Also, negative 11, right? So if we wanted to make it easier on us, technically, could we add 1 to both sides? And then that will give us plus or minus 11. So what's the trend so far? How many answers is each one? 2. Oh, my. Okay, this one. What's the last one? What value of x would give us a distance of 10 from 1, no longer at 0, but from 1 now? What is it? 9. Let's check it. 9 minus 1, absolute value. Is that going to give us a distance of 10? No, but I love you for guessing. What else? 11. 11 minus 1. Is that going to give us a distance of 10? Okay, I will accept 11. Is that it? Oh, what? Negative number? Okay, let's check. Negative 9 minus 1. What's negative 9 minus 1? Negative 10 in the absolute value, right? But absolute value make everything what? Positive. Wow, this one has 2 answers, but they're not like plus or minus. Is that okay to do? Yes, because we're no longer. Only the first 3 guys are from zeros, okay? Now the rest of them, I mean, obviously 4 is not, so it's not going to be both plus or minus like what we saw the first 3. Okay, you got a few blank spaces. Go ahead and copy this down. I'm going to wait too because some of you don't have put in it, and that's okay. I just need to be mindful and wait a little bit longer. These are now advanced absolute value equations, okay? Meaning that it's not going to be from 0 like the first 3. So in the advanced absolute value equation, how do we solve it? Step number 1. Kylie G, can you help us read number 1, please?
Read it?
Yeah, just read that line.
4x plus
Oh, no. In the instruction, it says
sorry.
no. It's my fault.
Okay, isolate the absolute value.
Yeah, so step number 1, just isolate the absolute value. Okay, because sometimes there's stuff around it. But for us to solve it correctly, we need to isolate the absolute value first. Maddie F., can you help us read the second line, please? Right, so after the absolute value is all by itself, we make 2 equations. Because as you notice, how many answers do we have each time? 2, that's why we make 2 equations, okay? So each time we have 2 answers, not all of the time, guys, just want to be mindful, but most of the time. The first equation says the original equation with no absolute value at all. So exactly the way it looks, except that the absolute value is now removed. Then the second equation, it says, okay, let's modify it a little bit. Now we're going to write the second equation with the sign on the answer being its opposite. So it used to be positive, now it's negative. It used to be negative, it's now positive. Remember, we get to use our notes during the test correction. So writing steps down, writing guidelines, making marks will help us navigate the correction or help us study. Okay, so example 5 says, absolute value of 4x plus 4 equals to 28. Okay, I'm going to make it bigger so we can write down here. So Logan, look at number 5. It's the absolute value, Logan, all by itself, all isolated. Yeah, so we don't have to do anything except now jump to number 2. Number 2 says make 2 equations. So the first one, the original without the absolute value. Would you guys agree that's what it says? Okay. The second, the modify. Everything should be exactly the same except we make the answer what? Negative. And guess what? We solve for this regularly. So back to solving normal. Step number 1 in solving, we're going to do what, Sean C?
For the first one and the second one.
Both. Both.
Yeah, x by itself.
And then step number 1 to do that would be what, Ben?
Minus 4 by each side.
Yep, do minus 4 to each and every term. Since we have 2 equations, I'm going to do it like 4 times. Okay, so we now have 4x equals 24. Over here, 4x equal, negative 28 and a negative 4 make it a what? 32. Okay, very good. One more step here, Carlitos. Next step, what do we do in solving for x?
Divide both sides by 4.
Yep, do it 4 times since we have 2 equations. Okay, so x equals 24 divided by 4 is 6. X equals negative 32 divided by 4 is? Okay, now let's quickly check to make sure that our basic math is right. When we check them, guys, we plug it back into the original equation here or the equation that you isolated your absolute value. Check absolute value. 4 times 6 plus 4. 4 times 6 is what? 24 plus 4. Absolute value of 28. 28. So that checks. So this one I can keep. Okay. Next. 4 times negative 8 plus 4. Be careful when it's a negative, okay? 4 times negative 8 is? Negative 32 plus 4? Negative 28. But absolute value of negative 28, students, is still a distance of 28. So, on Friday, you're going to have a quiz. It will be on Edge Elastic, so please check your Chromebook. If you have 2 answers, just use a comma to separate them. So just like that, okay? So x equals negative 8, comma 6. Example 6 says 5 times an absolute value of n plus 10 equals 10. So look at that equation. Is the absolute value, Shay, all isolated? Meaning that is it all by itself? No, good. You are right. We have to get rid of what? So that way it's all by itself. Yes. So students, divide both sides by 5. Okay. So now we divide both sides by 5. We have an absolute value of n plus 10 equals 10 divided by 5 is going to be 2. Now it is all isolated, just like example 5. We are going to write 2 equations. Okay. So first equation is, what should we write? Jamin's not here, so we're going to go with Jack. Jack, first equation, what do we write? N plus 10 equals 2. How about the second equation, bud? Yes. Okay. All right, you guys solve for it. Okay. write your answer something, comma something. Before you box it up, I want you to check with your neighbors. So once you have it, can you check with your neighbors, please? And Sage, whenever you're ready, give me our two x values. -8, comma, -12. Do you guys agree with those or no? Yes, let's move on. Good job. Example number 7. Uh-huh. No, you may not. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm so glad you did bring it up. Guys, when we have an absolute value inside and a number that's on the outside, you can see the 5 that's already positive. Do not distribute it inside, because once it's inside, it can be negative or positive. But outside, it's permanently positive. So if it's outside, keep it outside. Get rid of it. Okay? That's a really good question. Thank you. Yeah, so do not distribute in. All right, here we go. Example 7, absolute value of 1, take away 6n, close up the absolute value, plus 3 equals to 46, okay? So, look at that equation and decide. Bella, is that equation already isolated, the absolute value that is? No, so we need to move what so that way it could be? Yep, so everybody listen to Bella, move the 3. Okay, so 46 take away 3 will give us 40 what? 3. It is now all isolated, okay? So Enzo, we have to write 2 equations, bud. Give me both. Good job. Okay, we're gonna solve for this normally, okay? So let's isolate n, solve for n. First step, we need to do what? Nicoletta, what do we move so we can solve for n? Yes, good job. Subtract 1, subtract 1. We have 2 equations, so I'm just going to do it 4 times. Cancel, cancel. So negative 6n equals a positive 42. Negative 6n equals a negative 44. Okay. Jacob, I, now what?
The one on the left, but read the bottom all by -6.
Yeah, each and every term, huh? Here we go. Do it 4 times. Okay, so now this is n equals. This first answer is not bad. So 42 divided by -6, students, what would that be? -7, that's not bad at all. Now the other side, a negative divided by negative is positive, right students? Can I box that up? No, they're both even, so we have to reduce. Divide top and bottom by what? 2, okay? So this is a 22 over what? 3. So let's write it as x equals -7, comma, 22 over 3. Now, if you really like mixed number, could we technically have a 7 and 1/3? Uh-huh. That's right. Okay. I'll pinch it in. I'm going to slow down a little bit so we can. So last example in this set, and then we have 2 more for the x and minus 7 at the bottom. Number 8, absolute value, 3v minus 2. Close it. Divide by 5 equals 4. So Zoe, is that number 8? It's the absolute value all isolated. No, you're right. What do we need to get rid of so that way it could be isolated? Yes. So students, how do we get rid of that 5? Yep. Multiply the right side by 5. What you multiplied to one side, multiply to the other. So now that we multiply, that and that will reduce. So now we only have absolute value of 3v minus 2 equals positive 20. All right, Sean M. 2 equations.
3v minus 2 equals 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3v minus 2 equals -20.
Yes, good job. Okay, you guys solve for it, guys. Okay, Once you guys have your answer, again, confirm with your team before you box it up. Bless you. Talk, guys. Talk, talk, talk. Compare. You guys have matching answers? Kelsey's team, what did you get? Okay, so let me write it down first and then we'll go backtrack. You said 20, what, one more time? Okay, so let's see. First step, we added 2 to each and every term here. Okay, so now that means we have 3v equals 22. Over here, 3v equals negative 18, right, students? Then divide each and every term by 3. Yep, that's how we got 22 over 3. Divide this by 3. Yep, that's how we got negative 6. Good job. Now, if you guys have time on an exam, should we plug it back and check? Yeah. Okay. All right, next. JD, help us read the instruction for the last 2 examples.
Find the x and y intercept of absolute value function.
Great. So just like 2.1, JD, x-intercept, meaning y has to be what? 0. That means y-intercept. That means x has to be what? 0. Okay, let's do both. Which one seems a lot easier to start? X equals 0. Yeah, let's do that first. Okay. Y equals 0 minus 13 plus 7. 0 minus 13 would be what? I think you meant negative 13? Yeah, but okay, absolute value of negative 13? 13. 13 plus 7? 20. Okay, so that x-intercept, that y-intercept, guys, is 20. So 0, 20, we box that up. Not bad, right? Ooh, y-intercept. I'm sorry, that is your y-intercept. We're about to let y equals to 0. X-intercept, y equals to 0. Well, on number 11, I don't see a y, so there shouldn't be any answer. You guys agree? I don't see any y in there. F of x is y, so we do have some. Okay, so we go, okay, well, f of x is y, so y gets 0. 0 equals, what do we write? 0 equals what? What? You mean x minus 13?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Plus 7. Now what? How do we solve for the x-intercept? Subtract 7. Yep, we still have to isolate, students. We still have to isolate the absolute value, just like earlier. So now we have negative 7 equals absolute value of x minus 13. How do we solve for an absolute value? Nola, where do we go next? You guys agree? All right, let's solve for it normally. We are now going to add 13 to both sides. Okay. Okay, x equals. So Dante, negative 7 and a positive 13 will give us what, bud? How about the other side, bud? 7 and a positive 13. Okay, great. Okay, let's think about this for a second. Would you guys agree we got those answer by making that equation? True or false? Okay, we're gonna check them, okay, to see if it's true. When we plug in 6, let's see if it equals to 0. So 0, question mark, absolute value. 6 minus 13, close the absolute value, plus 7. So let's mentally look at it. Absolute value, 6 minus 13. What is inside the absolute value? What's 6 minus 13? Negative 7. Absolute value, students, of a negative 7 is? Positive 7. 7 plus 7. Is that 0? No. So we cannot keep the 6. It did not match. Let's check the other one. Okay. Okay. Let's check. Right, but absolute value of a negative 7 is? Positive 7. Okay. Remember, we have to do an absolute value. All right, let's check the other one. Again, 0, question mark, absolute value. Earlier, Dante said the other one is 20. All right, here we go. 20 minus 13 inside the absolute value. What is that? 7. Absolute value of 7. It's still 7. 7 plus 7. Is it 0? No. What? What kind of math is that? Okay. Can't have them. Can't keep them. Why is that? Why can we not have an answer here, students? Look at it. Pay attention to the equation. Explain to us. There's a reason. Trey, where do you see the negative? Where is that? You're right. Where? We just talked about distance, right? Absolute value being a distance. Can you guys see when the absolute value was all isolated? Shouldn't that distance be a negative or positive number? But when we isolated, we said the distance from 13 is negative 7. Is that ever possible? No. So if we worked smarter, we could have stopped right there. Be like, yeah, not possible, no solution. But now we know, right? Yeah, now we know. Okay. All right. Now we know that there's no solution because Trey said the moment you're done isolating your absolute value, it's negative, so there's not possible. So this one, guys, we're going to write no, X enter. Set. Okay, so we're going to go and do one last question. We're going to box up, I'm going to split up the other last question, 2 columns. One will be x-intercept again, and one will be y-intercept again. So keep ourselves super organized. Hey, which one seems easier for us to do first? X equals to 0 first, so y-intercept first. Okay, y-int, x equals to 0, x-int, y equals to 0. Okay, let's do that. Okay, let's do y-intercept first. That means x equals to 0. So negative 5 over 3, 0 minus 4 minus 11. What's 0 minus 4? What's absolute value of negative 4? 4, okay. So this is like this. Let me write all the steps down. So can you guys see that I haven't really taken it outside of the absolute value yet? Now I'm going to take it out. So that's going to be a positive 4. Yes or no? Okay. We have fractions, okay? So be very cautious. We're going to multiply first. When you multiply, we do not need to find the LCD. We can just multiply horizontally. So negative 5 on the top, multiplied to 4. What do we get? Negative 20. And the bottom, 3 times 1 is 3. When you add or subtract, you do need to find a common denominator. So what is the common denominator here? 3. So multiply this by 3. Multiply the top by 3. So now y equals negative 20 over 3 minus 33 over 3, which would give us what on the numerator? Negative 53 over 3. That is your y-intercept. 0, comma, negative 53 over 3. Box that up. X-intercept. We will now set y equals to what, Chase?
0.
That's right. Let's do it. 0 equals negative 5 over 3 times x minus 4 minus 11. And just like every time we solve for x, students, we have to isolate what? The absolute value. By moving what first? Dylan, move what first?
11.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay. So we got that cancel. So students, we now have 11 equals negative 5 divided by 3 times absolute value of x minus 4. Okay. We have to isolate some more. So now what? What do we get rid of now? Yeah, multiply by its reciprocal to get rid of that fraction in the front. So negative 3 over 5. What we multiplied to one side, we multiplied to the other. So as you can see, the negative 5 would cancel, negative 3 would cancel. So the right side, absolute value, is now completely isolated. Okay, but on the other side, we're going to make the 11 students over 1. So negative 3 times 11 is? Over. Should we keep going? Why not? Oh my. Guys, highlight this, box this, because this is magical. The distance from 4, okay, it's negative 33 over 5. Is that possible? No. So we can write what right away? No x-intercept here. Now, if you're solving for just x and it's not asking for you to solve for x-intercept, then you write no solution. But this one says no x-intercept. Okay. I'm going to spell out because what's happening? Why do we know there's no answer right away? Yep, because there's a negative number on the outside or inside? Not inside, but outside. Okay. AKA distance. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop my recording.